Shalom and welcome to another edition of Parsha Talk. I'm Rabbi Elliot Malamet in Highland Park, New Jersey, at the Highland Park Conservative Temple Congregation on Shemet. And joining me are my good friends, Rabbi Barry Chesler, Solomon Sheikh, the Day School of Long Island, and Rabbi Jeremy Kovanovsky of the Anshe Chesed in New York City, a new grandfather, first-time grandfather, Mazel Tov, Simon Tov, and
Also,
Mazel Tov. It's Didi and
Thank
Ariel
you.
became parents to a beautiful boy, baby boy, born on. Details.
Born on June 18th, just yesterday. We're recording this on Friday, Juneteenth. The baby was born 2:58 afternoon yesterday, the Gimel of Tammuz, the third day of Tammuz, and he's beautiful. And Ariel was a superstar. Not these things are never easy. This was not easy. My mechutanim, Ira and Sherry Balsam, and Amy and I are just delirious. It's the greatest thing.
It's we're delirious for you. We're and the
No,
whole part.
it was the same. It was the same day as the Knicks championship parade, and the kids are being very scrupulous about not revealing the name to the bris. Well, I don't know what the name is. We're calling the little guy OG for OG Ananobi. Although my interpretation is it stands for original grandchild.
Or you should call him Nick.
Nick, that wouldn't be bad. Barry, you wearing a Ramat t-shirt, I see.
yeah,
What summer was that?
17.
So speaking of Camp Rama in the Berkshires, we are big shout out to our to staff. Staff week has begun. This is the first staff Shabbat. I hope we make it up on the radio today. We'll get this over to our friends at Camp Rama in the Berkshires, Mitch Murnick, and a big shout out to all of our friends at Camp Rama in the Berkshires. We hope you have a very productive, successful summer. We're going to call this Parsha Talk Classic, okay? We are the original Parsha Talk. You know, over the years, there have been people who tried to substitute, including you, Barry. You tried to sub for this Parsha Talk, but we're the original. It's like, the original six in the NHL. We're the original three.
Oh, shout out to the Knicks. Shout out to the Carolina. What are they called? Hurricanes.
After the Canadians left, it wasn't worth watching. Anyway, um, we also want to shout out.
Although when we were waiting for the baby to be born, um, after the baby was already born, we were waiting for them to come into the room. I was watching Canada destroy Qatar on the
Okay,
6-0.
it's soccer. Who cares? Okay, Parsha Korach. Parshat Korach is an amazing parsha. Uh, we could say that it's a quiet parsha. It's a subdued parsha. It's a parsha where nothing goes on, right? It's the parsha where I think all of the pressure that's been building up over the last several weeks in the stories is really reaching its apex with the rebellion and out in a full rebellion. And this is Korach. Korach, who is a cousin to Moses. I'm just gonna, let's try and encapsulate what his complaint is. I'm gonna turn to you, Rabbi Jarma Kamenovsky. What's their deal? What is his deal, Korach? What does he want?
Well, one always has to decide. Um, there's a strong. If Robert De Niro was playing Korach, it would be one kind of thing, and if Ray Fiennes was playing Korach, it'd be a different kind of thing, and if I don't know, George Clooney was playing Korach, it would be yet a third kind of thing, because the simple semantic thing, the pshat, the pashut pshat of what he says is beautiful. Our society is too hierarchical. You, Moses, you have all the power concentrated in you. You are the political leader. You are the intellectual leader. And who's the ritual leader? Your brother. This is really unfair. And all the people have a share in holiness. We were all at Mount Sinai. We all have a relationship with God. So why madua titnasu al kahal Adonai? Why do you raise yourself so much over over this holy community? And you can read it. We as Americans or North Americans, at some level, have to kind of resonate to a claim that a society that recognizes the fundamental equality of all people, It's pretty good thing. So you can read Korach as having a well-intentioned claim that Moses has simply amassed too much power and there needs to be a corrective. You can also read him as a kind of demagogic figure who wants some power for himself. You know, you Moses, who made you king? I'm your first cousin or second cousin actually,
First
and
cousin.
first cousin because
Yeah,
so Kehat and so they're both children of Kehat, right? So Amram and Izhar must be
They're
brothers, and
brothers.
so Moses and Korach must be first cousins. And it's my turn. My name should be on that door.
I'm very struck
but
by the.
he's
Go ahead.
actually quite insidious. And I'm reminded of people when they're analyzing politics, they always try and find something nice to say about someone, when in fact, sometimes there is nothing nice to say about it. Because Moses and Aaron did not choose their roles, they were chosen by God. And Korah conveniently leaves that part out. It's not why did you elevate yourself? His complaint should be with God. He should have gone to God and said, why did you, God, elevate Moses and Aaron when I am equally deserving? But that he does not do.
I want to pick up Jeremy on the casting call here, and what is so interesting is that all the actors that you mentioned, we could obviously come up with a whole list. They would bring different kinds of emphasis and a different layer to the character, which only underscores the fact that every time we read this, we are engaged in an act of interpretation. And far be it from me to say that any of us project ourselves into the text, but one strategy of reading the text is seeing yourself as if you are this Korach, or seeing yourself as if you are Moses here, reacting to this. And I haven't taken the strategy of seeing myself as Korach, although I can barely understand what his problem is. I've certainly tried to understand it from the eyes of Moses, and and the sheer frustration in this, and the sheer sense of not pointlessness, but I just what do I do in this situation? How who taught you? Who teaches leaders how to be leaders? Right? Where's the manual for this? And of course, we're all function in some way as leaders. And I wouldn't say we've all had to deal with insurrection. I mean, God, thank God, I haven't had to deal with an insurrection. Okay, but there are moments that are uncomfortable where you have to make decisions that are not going to be popular, or where you say no to someone, and that can be very, very dangerous. Um, and what you have is parties forming, parties that support and parties that are opposed to you, etc. And that could be very dangerous. And in a we're leaders of small communities, that is to say, small compared to Bnei Israel, but you know part of our role, is to keep everybody together, and it's not easy. I don't know
Well,
how
what
you
do you
react to
think?
that.
What do you? This is a gesture that I really am not confident that I understand. But as is often the case with the spies, and now again today in this week's parsha, Moses falls on his face.
Yeah.
Now, is this at one level? I think this is prayer. Um, Rashi suggests that Moses before confronting Korah falls on his face and says, "God, you're going to have to forgive these people yet again." Um, but maybe it's a delaying tact. I don't know really what to make of all
You know
this.
what I think
Well,
it
it could
is?
be
Frustration.
paralysis.
It's
It could be paralysis that he doesn't know what to do. And getting to your earlier point, Elliot, leadership is something that you learn on the job, because no matter what preparation you have, you're always going to find yourself, or not always, but many times you'll find yourself in situations where if you're not in that situation, you would not know what to do. And being in that situation doesn't necessarily give you the wisdom to make the right decision. I'm reminded of what my mentor, Jerry Skolnick, once said, that in these kinds of situations, when you make a decision, you've made a decision and then you move on. You can't keep revisiting your decision.
You can't keep revisiting your decision until your decision costs you your job, and then you go like, what did I do? I made a mistake here, or I'm going out on principle, and we are always weighing different things here when it comes to making decisions. I don't want to give examples of this, but we have as our goal as leaders keeping everyone together because the health of the community requires it. Schism is inherently bad because schism can literally result in the dissolution of your community. Communities want to sustain themselves, and they need to sustain themselves through a healthy interaction and what we'll get to in a moment, which is a mutual respect. And so I'm
Well,
back to
mutual respect for some measure of diversity and dissent. So, like, if you are if you demand total agreement on all issues, then you are a very unstable community because the smallest machloket, the smallest argument can break you apart. And then you say, well, we can't stay together in this kibbutz anymore because you interpret you interpret Lenin's words differently than we do, or we can't stay in this minyan together because you're taking out the second paragraph of the Yikum Porkan. Those are very dangerous things. So respect for dissent is a healthy thing in a community. And so this story makes it this is a hard story in this respect. As we're talking, I just happened to flip over, Barry, your comment about really there's not really a lot of good stuff to say about Korach, and the demagogic element is really the main one, and we should see through it. So I just noted in the Ramban, I just looked over here, when Moses heard, he fell on his face, and Ramban notes, but not Aaron. Aaron didn't fall on his face because Aaron acknowledged, Vayehi kemacharish, he fell silent, ukemodeh, and he acknowledged, Shema'alat Korach, Gidolami Ba'alato. Korach, you're right, Korach is awesome. And Ramban is saying that Aaron is saying, he's really good. He might be better at this job than me. And
So,
that's Abahu Oseh Kidvar Moshe Ukemekayem Gezerat Hamelech. But he's doing what Moses told him because that's what God told him. But Aaron, according to the Ramban, saw some real merit in Korach's argument.
well, he's the Rodef Shalom,
He's the
right?
Rodef
He's the
Shalom.
one who wants to make peace. But
Exactly.
what you were asking before, Elliot, about how you would imagine Korach and how you would play him, or any one of us would play him. So what I wonder is, why does Korach agree to Moses's test? What does he think's going to happen?
he's committed. This is where the folly is, which is he's not able to pull back from the abyss here, and this is his own pride and hubris, which is, I'm going to bring everybody down with me. I think that's that would be my a kind of caustic comment on his political failure, which is he makes it does in the end become about himself, and when things become about yourself, then you don't really care what happens to everybody who's in your camp.
Are you
And
commenting on the
I'm
state of
not
American
commenting on
politics?
anything. I watched this Parsha Talk with Benny Lau. He says, "Ani lo nichnas lepoliti, ani lo nichnas lepolitika." When it's blatantly political. But yeah, it's when politics becomes serving yourself as opposed to serving your constituency, your nation, it can be catastrophic. And in Korach's case, it is.
So one of the curiosities about the Parsha is that it's not clear exactly what happens to Korach.
Uh huh.
There's one tradition that he is swallowed up by the earth, and another one where it's not so clear what happened to him. And I wonder if that betrays a certain ambivalence in the Torah about Korach that maybe is in his favor, that he was not as bad as perhaps we imagine him to be. And as Ramban pointed out, maybe his argument was of more merit than we want to give him.
Because one of the things that we like in this tradition is we so many times conversion candidates come to me and say, I grew up in this religion. I have a current conversion candidate who grew up in a uh, uh, very conservative kind of Calvinist Protestant tradition. And as a middle schooler, he said, uh, there's a bit about predestination, and God decides before you're created if you're wicked or saved. That just means that God is creating souls to torture them. He's an eighth grader, he says this, and they throw him out
Ooh.
and tell him that he is driving the community on a bus to hell.
Ooh.
And Judaism, in contrast, my conversion candidate says, we love questions. We love hard questions. We love questions
Put him in the driver's seat.
that we do in this tradition. And I'm not saying that if you go to B'nai Brak, this is really true. I don't think those are very closed and hierarchical societies. But in principle, in the long tradition of Judaism, we want, Abaye to argue with Rava, and we want people to ask hard questions that probe at soft points, and we kind of appreciate a little rebellion. The Kotzker Rebbe said about Korach, unser heilige Zedi. He's our holy grandfather, and there's a way that you kind of you may grudgingly, but it may be grudgingly, but you kind of admire somebody who says to Moses, you're not the only Talmid Chacham here.
No,
All right.
what occurs to me is that in the rabbinic tradition, we might describe Korach as a Zaken Mamre, the rebellious elder, one who's not content to teach his tradition, even when he's outvoted, but has to teach his tradition as the law. And maybe that's really what trips Korach out. He doesn't say, why can't I have this role? He says the rules should change to accommodate me.
So let's fast forward to the end of the Parsha as we are in the second half of our conversation here. And so the earth has swallowed up Korach, the fire has incinerated his cohort. There's a plague that goes through the camp, a lot of terrible things that happen. And then everything kind of comes to a denouement, a little bit of resolution, okay? And that's chapter 17, in the middle of 17, where God tells Moses, go, Moses, go collect the staffs, the rods, from each of the tribes, okay? And basically, to make a long story short, put them in the center, before the Ohel, in the Ohel Ha'idut or Ohel Moed, and then the one rod, and Aaron's rod also representing the tribe of Levi, put it in there also, and the rod that sprouts or flowers, designates the person who is going to be Kohen. And sure enough, well, it's very subtle. They give Moses their rods. Moses doesn't take them. The tribal chieftains give Moses their rods, and then they deposit them. They don't plant them, by the way, as is often depicted. They simply lay them out there, or they deposit them in the area near the Aron. And then, guess what? The next day, not only does Aaron rod sprout, but it's vayetze perach, vayatzet tzitz, vayigmol shkedim. Overnight, it's like time-lapse photography. It's like it sprouts, it flowers, and it has shkedim, almonds, okay? All in one night. That's amazing, because the almond, as I learned, takes about 7 months to ripen, from bud to fruit to nut. Okay. Now we can make a stretch here. That's 7 months. 7 is the divine number. But the point is that something happens miraculously, and then it says, "Vayotze Moshe et kol hamatot." Moses collects all of the matot, and then Vayir'u vayikhu ish mateh. Each one takes their mateh bag. So I'm going to give an interpretation here, which is that this is about lowering the temperature in the camp. And to lower the temperature of the camp, you have to have symbolic gestures. And the symbolic gesture has to be to A, acknowledge that there's a leader here. Yes, it's Aaron. And B, to give honor and to accept and to validate the place of all the others in this system. So that the whole issue with the staffs is about God says take them, but Moses allows them to give, and then Moses allows each one to retrieve by themselves. He's not lording it over them. He's not being condescending. He's not rubbing it in their faces. And so, the thesis here is this is about honor, and this is about inviting the whole community represented by the tribal chieftains to share in what I'm going to call the election of Aaron. It's technically an election, but it's the validation of Aaron as the high priest, and saying to everyone, you have a connection here, because you shared in this revelatory moment. And I'm writing that as my Parsha sheet this week, but if
How do the two stories, the story of the staffs and the story of Korach's rebellion, and just for a little bit of, a little bit of extra JTS stuff, there's Korach's rebellion. He is a 1A class Levite. There's the rebellion of Datan va'Aviram, who are Bnei Reuven. So they are the genealogical firstborn tribe. They're shunted to the side for other reasons, perhaps. Those stories appear to be two distinct stories that are kind of woven together.
Yes.
And then there's the story of the tribal chieftains and Aaron's staff, which it goes a little unsmoothly. It goes a little roughly with the Korach story, because all it proves is that the Levites should be the main tribe, and Korach is one. Yeah. So, but they are all stories about challenging and dissatisfaction with the secondary role, and perhaps a kind of self-aggrandizement and narcissism. We are here in New York City right now, in the week of the Democratic primary, which of course in New York City politics, that's the only one that matters. Republicans are you can vote for Republicans if you want, but a Democrat is almost certain to win every race in New York. And the viciousness in which the different politicians want to insult and compete against and put down their rivals. It's like, oh my goodness. So how do you see the story of the affirmation, the election, and bringing everybody into the ratification of Aaron? How does it relate? Is it a counterweight to Korach? Is it a repetition of Korach? What's going on?
I think it's a correction, and I think my reading is, a very close reading here, that God says to Moses one thing, and Moses does something else there. And when you look at it between the lines, you see that Moses is very, at least according to the narrator, Moses is subtly changing what God says. And one example is, go and take their rods. Okay, go and take their rods. And instead of Moses going, Reuven, Shimon, Levi, and give me a rod, it's they are giving, right? And I think in that subtle moment, okay, it's an acknowledgement that you have dignity. Is the rod the tribal property, or is the rod your property? Okay, so I'll give you an example. Okay, the men's club in your shul. Okay, so the regional men's club president gets a special mantle, or let's go to the rabbinical assembly. The rabbinical assembly elects a president. Okay. And when the rabbinical assembly elects a president, they give the president's shul a mantle to be on the Torah, which is the signal that your rabbi is the president of the rabbinical assembly. Okay,
is this true? Or are you making this up?
It is. No, I'm making it. No, it's absolutely true. Okay, and after the term of the rabbinical assembly president, the mantle then goes to the next president. Okay, so if you're a narcissistic president, you want to keep the mantle, right? Or you want to keep a memento of the mantle, okay?
אתה כן נכנס לפוליטיקה.
Oh no, no. So you want to say it's my mantle. I should keep the mantle. I want to keep the mantle. It's my. But what you're doing is you're saying this belongs to everybody. Okay. Now there is a give and take here because the leader of the tribe should say, yeah, it's my stuff. I am entrusted with the safekeeping of this stuff. So for all intents and purposes, at this moment, I own it. Okay. I'm the custodian of the staff and I will transmit it to the next generation. Now, to say you're the custodian is to honor that. And Moses is honoring the fact that you have a role as a custodian. Notwithstanding the fact that every one of them knows that if this is the property of the tribe, it'll go to the next position. What I'm saying here is there are lots of different subtle ways that you can smack down a person and reduce them and humiliate them. There's a lot of ways to humiliate people in the most subtle ways, right? You can misspell their name. You can call them up the wrong way to the Torah. You can omit them. These are by design or by mistake. People get humiliated in these ways. Okay, so Moses, in my reading here, is punctilious about according each of them their honor and dignity because everybody knows that Aaron is the high priest. We don't need to go through this. It's like the electoral college. Everybody knows who the president is, but the electoral college is this ceremonial affirmation of the polity's decision. Okay,
So
notwithstanding, yeah,
we have to push this a little bit further though, because at the end, Aaron's rod is going to be placed in the ark
yes,
as a memorial. And it would seem that it's prized over the other staffs. And now when the tribal chieftain looks at his staff, he realizes it doesn't measure up. So I don't know how that could be comforting.
I I acknowledge that as the Achilles tendon of my argument, which is that
Okay.
there's
No, no,
but here so my
you can
answer
defend it. You can defend. Yeah.
my defense is that this the flowering of God of the rod is a symbol of God's love for everyone, and it goes beyond just we elect Aaron and this is this in your face. This is you're all invested in this. Your success as tribal leaders actually is directly related to who you have validated as a high priest.
I think that I think that this really gets to the heart of the hard questions that we have here. Here's what I mean by that. Um, there are people who really need to be in the front of the room,
Yeah,
and being in the front of the room, they might want to serve, they might want to, uh, they might genuinely want to serve their community and their society. Shkoyach to that, but they got to be in the front of the room, and we all know that that is a kind of vicious cycle because there will always be somebody who's got a bigger job and somebody who's got a better title and somebody who's got more prominence. And I think part of psychic health, social health and psychic health, is feeling that you have a part in something that is bigger than you. They joke that every senator thinks that he or she is a candidate for president, and every House member thinks he or she is a candidate for governor or senate or something like that. And you see it in politicians. I'm thinking of some individuals here in New York who lose one election and then they just got to run for another one. What am I going to run for next? I need some sort of narcissistic affirmation. So I think that the outcome of the story is okay. There is only one Chief Justice of the Supreme Court, and there is only one High Priest, and that's the way it has to be. And if you Rosh Mate God, you are the most prominent member of the tribe of God. If you feel like I should be the high priest, you're going to be frustrated and disappointed. And if you feel like you have a part in supporting somebody who's doing a very important job, I think there's a satisfaction that comes from that. That's a healthy one. I
yeah.
will also add one more thing, which is that in chapter 18, which immediately follows, which begins by God reminding Aaron, and let's not forget what happened not too long ago on the dedication day of the tabernacle. you're going to have to bear huge responsibility that comes with death penalties. Lord says to Aaron, "Vayomer Adonai LaAaron, Ata uvanecha uveit avicha itach tisu et avon hamikdash." You and your children and your ancestral house, you will bear the guilt for misuse of the sanctuary. Ata uvanecha itach tisu et avon kehunatechem. You're going to bear the guilt. If you misuse something, a terrible disaster is going to happen. Huge responsibility. There can only be one Ramat Kal of Tzahal, the chief of staff of the Israeli army, or the joint chiefs of staff in America, or the head of the Pentagon, or whatever. And I know you might want to advance in your job, and I know you might want a big title, and you might want all the prominence that comes with that. Don't forget that that comes with life and death responsibilities. So the Rosh Mate Gad, the chief guy from the tribe of Gad or Zebulun, I'd say, there are blessings to being chief Zebulonite, and I don't bear those terrible life and death responsibilities.
Well, that's a
So
good
if I
counterpoint to placing it in the Mikdash. Go ahead, Barry. I'm sorry.
so I just wanted to add one thing. So Milgram in this commentary on Numbers entitles the entire Parsha "Encroachment on the Tabernacle." And what's striking, if we come back now to the original argument that Korah makes, we're all holy people. He wants holiness without boundaries, and holiness can only exist when there are very clear boundaries. And the Levite's job is to protect those boundaries because it's dangerous when you transgress. And then what happens to Korach ultimately is the Torah's way of making that point. The
That's fascinating.
transgressors are punished.
We are also constrained by boundaries of time,
Of
and
time.
Oh, nice segue.
I look at the clock here, and we are coming out of time. So we've gone from the character of Korach to this this moment of conciliation, and also a moment that reminds both the characters, the principals in the story, and all of us reading that there are tremendous responsibilities for this role and leadership. Once again, though, we want to just give a big shout out and say, Bruchim Abaim Lamachane Ramah, all of the members of the staff, the staff of Machane Ramah, Rosh Mateh of Machane Ramah, all of the people that are going to be entrusted with, leading and educating and being just symbolic exemplars and dugmaot to the camp at the summer. We're so glad to be hosted on the camp radio, Korah 102.3 FM in Machane Ramah. And we're still, for all these years, the best Parsha podcast, Parsha show in Dutchess County. That's what we
Here,
are.
here.
That's what we are.
Beautiful.
Right.
Shabbat, everybody. Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
And we'll see you next week on the next edition of Parasha Talk. Take care, everyone.